Everybody, welcome back. See, I'm just using cylinders and allowing the division to give me some hexagon, pentagon, whatever the hell the name of that shape is. Just to build the base, I'm just duplicating using Gizmo sculpting at the minute. I'm not doing anything sort of major. Copying shapes and bullying them out to get the inside of the coffin done. Now I'm just using squares, basically rectangles, and I'm just boolean for the details on the coffin. So it did take quite a while, this sculpt, to be fair. I think it was a good 7 or 8 days solid sculpting, 7 or 8 hours per day. I love the original model, and I really did want it for myself, so I decided that I had to have a go at sculpting it. It was my full first female sort of anatomy, head to toe. I really enjoyed sculpting it. So it did take a long time, but it was well worth it. So you can see I'm just making out the different shapes. I've got plenty of picture reference from the original sculpture in the back that I'm using continuously just to check that I'm getting things right. I'm just basically blocking out the details and the basic shapes of things that I need with this little flower. I'm just waiting. I'm sort of limited by my 3D printer at the moment. I'm just using a Elegoo 9K Mars 4, I believe it is. An amazing printer. I've gone from Frozen to Elegoo, and I've got no complaints, to be fair. Really, really good. The printer's a little workhorse, but I am limited by the size of it now, so I don't really want to be chopping models up into multiple parts if I don't have to. One, it just takes time. Two, you have to fill in and sand, and you're never going to get it as good as it probably would do if it was printed in one piece. So you can see here I'm just simply blocking out the shapes, getting the proportions right. I think I put symmetry on, not really sure. Radial symmetry, maybe not, doesn't look like it. But you can use radial symmetry, select these parts, join them together, and then it will probably be a little bit easier to do. So yeah, a little bit of messing around and I've sort of got the desired shape. Now I'm happy with that. I'm just gonna plonk this onto the coffin, duplicate it, mirror it, and then that's good to go. Now I'm going to be sculpting the handles. Every little detail on this model has had to be pretty much sculpted from scratch. I haven't used any base models, I haven't used anything at all really, everything's been sculpted. It's really good practice as well, just to keep sculpting different forms. It's just to get an understanding of the shapes that you need to make and what primitives that you can use to create those shapes, basically. So, yep, now you can see I've pretty much done the handles sort of fitting. I'm happy with that, and that can be put onto the coffin, duplicated several times and then flipped, mirrored to the other side, and that's pretty much going to give me the 4 handles. Now I'm just using the tube brush and I'm just going to make the handle. Again, click on the points to turn them black and give yourself a sharp point. Moving around, making sure it fits into the fitting. Just all the little details you have to be aware of. Keep checking your model from different angles. All those little details will all add up in the end to a really realistic looking model. model. It's been a while since I've updated anything onto the YouTube, because this has just taken so long to edit, and I'm constantly sculpting as well. So I've been doing a few really good sculptures at the minute. I'm doing my own IPs, my own collections, as well as sort of copies of other statues, basically. Honestly, I was a big lover of sideshow collectibles, and I still am. Prime One Studios as well, amazing companies. And honestly, if I was a multi-millionaire, I'd probably just be buying all the pieces, but I'm not. So for me, it's the pleasure of producing this as well, and saving the money. Rather than spending, a grand, 2,000 euros on a statue, 2,000 euros for me would literally buy me another printer and enough resin to print out 10 statues. Yep, it takes the time and effort. You have to print them, you have to paint them, build them, you have to do all that yourself. But honestly, it's so enjoyable to have a finished product at the end that you're proud of, and that you will be happy to display in your cabinets and right next to your official licensed sculptures. So that's sort of where I'm at the minute. I was a big collector for quite a while. Hot Toys, Sideshow, 1/6 all the way up to full size scale. And yeah, it's just I got a 3D printer, and all that changed. I just can't justify it anymore. Are these pieces going to be as good? Probably not. These companies have teams of people working with them, and what they do is amazing, with literally decades of experience. I've been 3D sculpting for around 4 years, 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, but only seriously 3D sculpting these last few months. So I am still sort of using ZBrush, but I'm moving further and further away from it, as Nomad's being updated, and I'm finding little workarounds to get to the same result by using Nomad instead of ZBrush. Yes, it takes longer. Yes, it is not as accurate, but honestly, when it comes to organic things and faces and stuff like that, it's just as good. There is, for me, no difference really. It's actually probably easier to use, just without having to use two hands, and everything's sort of where you expect it to be. So again, big shout out to Nomad. It's a great app. So now you can see I've just used the masking brush. I'm just pulling out each layer of the carving on the back of the coffin. So as I've gone round and masked off sections, you can see I've just pulled them out. That's all I've had to do. Then I've gone to the next layer and pulled that out from that one, so on and so on. And now I've got quite a 3D looking carving on the back. I do have to remember it's wood, so I'm not going to go too crazy in smoothing it out or being majorly accurate with it. I just want to get a rough sort of idea, and then I'll put some texture over it, some wood grain texture, and that should sell the effect. You can see I'm just working on the hands now. As I said, I don't need to go too crazy. It just needs to look like sort of what it is. It just don't have to be the knuckles and anything like that. Now you can see I'm just going through it. I'm just refining lines that should be separating parts. I'm just making sure that it's nice and sharp. Before I do go in with detail, I do want some kind of volume to it when I go over with the texture. I don't want it too smooth. I want some imperfections to make it look a little bit more natural. So and now I've just duplicated the coffin, and I've just shrunk it down and pulled it into itself. I'm trying to make the lining on the inside of the coffin. Obviously it's going to be material, so I did throw this into ZBrush, and I was doing a nano mesh for these buttons, but honestly it became such a pain in the backside. I had enough of it, so I decided to come back to Nomad, and I just used an array for the buttons. Now you can see I've just used a crease brush, and I've just sort of sketched in some lines. Now I'm just using the inflate brush, and I'm just going in between those buttons, and I'm just puffing out the material. We want some irregularities in this. Don't want to make it all looking exactly the same, because it wouldn't be in real life. Even though the buttons are symmetrical, you need to have some, the fabric wouldn't be. So now I'm happy with that. I'm starting to put in the crease lines in, the stitching line, again just using a crease brush. I'm happy with that now. Now I've just jumped onto the mask brush, and I'm going around the edging of the fabric, and I'm just drawing some lines basically. I've gone all the way around, and I've just basically drawn lines up and down all the way through. Now I'm just using the inflate, and I've just dragged out the excess clay. Now you can see I'm just putting the wood grain into the back of the coffin. Again, I'm just going to make it look like it's split up into several sections. I'm just using the crease brush, and I'm just randomly going through. Unfortunately, after the recent update, Nomad just keeps crashing at certain points. I do apologise, because it did crash, and I lost some of the recording. It is just a simple cylinder and sphere body base mesh. I've anchored the parts together so I can grab the hip socket and move the whole leg, same as the shoulders and elbows. So this is just now basically a posable dummy. Yeah. Now I'm just using the move brush, and I'm going to start to block out the basic shapes of the body. That's going to be the torso. I generally start with the torso on most of my models, to be fair. I don't know why, it's just a workflow that I've fallen into. Some people start with the head, some people start with other things. For me, I start with the body. If I can get the torso looking good, then just basically it's just extending outwards from that with the arms and the neck and the waist and the legs. So now when I'm sort of happy with the basic shapes, I've joined the torso and the waist together with the shoulders. I've also remeshed them, and I've just smoothed down the joints. You have to trust the process when you're sculpting. Sometimes the models will look like absolute rubbish, like this does right now, but you have to keep tweaking, you have to trust what you're doing. Okay? Most of the time sculpting, especially with the move brush, you're just moving things very, very slightly. One, it's going to help with the mesh as well, and two, you're just tweaking things basically. If you're dragging things around too much, you're probably going to have to move them back, and yeah, so a little tweaks here and there is what you want to be doing. Nothing too crazy. You can always tweak and tweak again, rather than too much. That's my sort of take on it anyway. So you can see I'm just sort of blocking out the rib cage. I've started from the chest, and I'm just sort of working my way down, trying to work out the proportions and the anatomy. Jumping onto the arms. You will see I'm quite haphazard when I do sculpt. I do tend to go here, there and everywhere. I don't know. I don't know if it's just so I don't get bored in one spot for too long. No idea. I think I get to sort of 50% happy and then I move on. And I try and sort of bring up the other parts to 50% around what I'm doing. And then I can keep going back in and sort of tweaking things. Again, use anatomy. I didn't really use anatomy too much. I didn't get any female figures or anything like that. I just basically used the reference of the actual sculpt. Now I'm just happy with that, so I've joined the neck to the torso, smoothed that down. So now I've got the neck, the shoulders, the waist, now the buttocks, everything's sort of getting joined together, Vauxhall remeshed, smoothed out, and then I can start sculpting the secondary details. Now I've jumped onto the legs. I'm just trying to get some definition, put the muscle groups in the right places. I know she's going to have leggings on and boots on, so I'm not that worried about skin textures or, you know, the creases in the knee or anything like that. As long as the basic shapes are there and I'm happy with how it looks, then I can just move on. So I'll start working again back onto the torso, start to put some details in. Blocking out the stomach muscles now and the belly button. Again, I'll get so far and then I'll smooth it all down. If you look in the reference, she has got a six-pack, but it's not majorly defined. It looks quite soft, which is what I'm trying to recreate myself. So again, I'm just smoothing it down a little bit. Now here I'm just working back onto the arms again. You can see I'm just using the crease brush. I'm starting to put in the basic shapes of the muscles. The biceps, the forearms, shoulders, just any kind of muscle lines basically. I'm just sort of sketching those in. They don't have to be too prominent. As I said, she's not a bodybuilder, but she looks quite toned, so that's what I'm going for. Female anatomy is not the easiest, but it's definitely not the most difficult. I think once you stick to some certain rules with proportions and things, it can be quite easy to do, and it's quite rewarding as well. The female figure generally is a prettier looking figure than what a man's is basically. So yeah, you can see I'm just using the mask brush and I've just basically masked off the part for the shirt and then I've just extracted that. These creases on the inside between the chest was quite a pain in the backside. I was looking at the picture for reference and I tried several different ways to get this looking how I wanted it, and yeah, after quite a bit of trial and error I decided to do what I do for creases in the clothing anyway, and that's using the mask brush, inverting it and then expanding it, inflating it, expanding it, you know what I mean. Now I just want an edge to the shirt, so I'm just using a stable brush, which is just a mask brush that's been copied, and it's had the stabilizer put up to around 50 I believe, and then saved as a separate brush. So when I want this stable brush I can just click on it and it automatically has the stabilizer on it, so I don't have to mess about changing any more settings. Now I'm just going around trying to get the tone effect from the bottom of the shirt, and that's just basically using the drag brush. Now I'm going into Procreate and I've decided to make the the detailing for the top, which is these sort of skeleton. It's like a rib cage, I believe. So again, I'm using the mask brush and I'm blocking out the shapes that I need for the top. Now I'm just taking my time. Remember, there's no need to rush with anything sculpting. You only have to get it right once, and then that's it. It's done. So you don't have to rush. Just take your time, enjoy the process, have fun, keep tweaking, and you will get there in the end. Now I've just made the drag brush smaller. I've voxel remeshed the top, and now I'm just sort of going in and trying to add the detail to it. So I will be using the crease brush, and I will use an alpha stitch that I made myself, and that will be I'll put the stitching around each of the part. Now I'm happy with the bottom. I'll just merge the bottom together, the legs from the waist, and I'm just using the mask select brush, and I've masked off the section for her trousers, and that's pretty much it. Masked off the top, and then I've pulled that up using the gizmo to give sort of I don't actually know what that part's called of the jeans, the rim, where the belt goes, the top, yeah, whatever. So again, now I'm happy with that, the basic shape of it. I'm just using the mask brush again, just my usual way of doing material. And now, yeah, I needed to make an alpha for the bones for the legs. So I've just sort of copied as much of what I could do of the original picture, and now I'm just using that as an alpha, and I'm going to pull that out where it needs to be. Wasn't perfect, so I decided to go in manually with the mask brush and just define some of these edges a little bit better. And there we go, a quick extract, and you have it. I tried around 20 times to do the same on the other side, and it just was not having it. So I decided in the end I was just going to freehand the mask on myself, which I did. And now we're making a belt. I'm just using the tube brush, and I've closed it so it makes a circle, and now I'm just pulling points out right around the belt line. So you can see now I've got the belt. I've put the twist on multiple, so I can twist each point if I need to, just to make it fit a little better. Now I'm sort of happy with that. I've just gone in and started to put details into the actual trousers. I've used the crease brush. I've gone right down the sides to give that crease line. I've just reinforced it there after a voxel mesh, and now I'm just using an alpha, and that's a double stitch that I made again myself, and that's to go around the edge. Damn standard brush to give me some creases for the stitching, and again I'm just using the alpha that I made for the stitching, and that same alpha will go all the way down right down the legs. Now, because I extracted the jeans from the legs, I still have the legs underneath the jeans, so I can extract from the leg this section here. So you're not extracting it from the jeans, which is going to have the crease line and it's going to look a mess, but you've extracted it from the leg that's underneath, and I've just pushed it outwards basically. Now I used an alpha to make the holes for the straps to go through it, and that's pretty much it. Nice and simple stuff. And now I've got the plate for the holder. Again, details, I'm just going in the straps that go through it, I'm masking off the parts that I don't want to work on, and then I'm just inflating the straps through the plate. Again, tube brush, set the profile to flat, and then I've just made a little strap that connects the holster to the belt. Now I've just decided to jump onto the rosary beads. This is the same way as I did the belt. I've gone from the top, I've just made a tube. I've used an array with a cylinder, and that's pretty much it. You can see now I'm just using the select brush, and I'm just going around and I'm masking off the sections of her arm. One, she's got a sleeve on the right arm that comes all the way down, so that's what that is. And she's got some bracelets on her other arms as well. Again, mask, invert, inflate, smooth down a little bit. You've got instant creases, nice and easy. Yeah, just going the sleeve. I want a slight rim to it, so I've just used the mask. I've just inflated the edge, which gives me this subtle rim around the edge. Now I'm going to do the little crosses for the rosary beads. Simple small crosses. I'm not going to go too crazy with detail because they are going to be so small. So just simple silver crosses. I put a cylinder, brought down the division to give me some kind of gem look. That's pretty much it. Two boxes, a bit of boolean, gem in the middle, and then I've selected them together and I've smoothed everything down, just give it a more machined look, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to duplicate that a couple of times, and then I will have three rosary beads, three crosses for the rosary beads. Remember guys, if you like what you've seen so far, subscribe, like, hit the bell, give me some support guys. I've gotten quite a few views and followers. It's been through the Reddit subreddit, the Nomad Sculpting Reddit, so thank you to members on that Reddit, because yeah, you've been giving me some great support. Thank you very much. I'm getting good feedback from the videos. You can see now this is sort of how I did the rosary beads. It's a cylinder, it's a sphere used as on a tube as an array, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to be doing her boots. You can see I've already done the boot on that side for some reason. Again, Nomad was just absolutely being a nightmare this last month since the update. But it's just basically masking, extracting crease down the side, mask brush for the creases, select mask for the straps around the boot. It's pretty much it. Now I'm just using a sphere and a cylinder to try and block out the shapes of her shoes. It's quite simple, to be fair. And then basically what I would do is, when this boot is finished, I would duplicate and mirror it, and then move it around to fit the other foot, and that's just to guarantee I have the exact same size shoe. Now that's actually a boot over the top of her legging. So again, you've just masked it, extracted it, flipped it, and then I've got a boot like that. Again, I've missed a couple of bits. So I'm just showing you here. I'm just basically select the top and the bottom of the strap, inverted it, and I've just sunk in the middle. That's going to give me these two edges. Then I'm just using the alpha stitch brush again, and I'm just knocking in all the stitch lines. There was a lot of straps and a lot of stitching that I needed to do this on. It's quite tedious, but the devil's in the details. You have to do the details. So, yep, after quite a while, I managed to get all the stitching done. Now just use a crease brush, go on and put the detailed edging around the edge of it. Happy enough with that. And alpha screw, whatever they are, and let's give me the screws. Now I'm on to the hand. So this is a nice little tutorial just in itself, to be honest. This is one way that I do the hands. This is just using the tube brush. I basically put a dot for each where each knuckle's going to be, duplicate the part, duplicate the tube, and then move it around. So once I'm sort of happy with the shapes, then I can start moving them around. So basically I know she's going to be grabbing a gun, so I've just mocked up a handle, a rough handle shape, and now I'm going to be positioning the fingers around that. I find if you're using cylinders and spheres to do fingers, you do get this part would be a lot faster. I'm just having to bend around from all angles doing it this way. But with the cylinders and spheres, I could literally just press a sphere, and the cylinders would move in unison. Now happy with the shape, basically I'm going to verify, then I'm going to remesh it and smooth it down a little bit. I'm also going to smooth the fingers off at the tips. Obviously they're not flat, they're going to be circular. And honestly, within a few minutes you've got a half decent looking hand. Again, you're going to need a few tweaks here and there, especially when they put the gun into the hand. You'll probably find that it needs moving around a little bit, which you could have left it non-verified and moved it to the hand and sort of done all this, but honestly I prefer doing it this way. So now I'm just doing the fingernails. She's going to have gloves on as well, so most of her hand will be covered, apart from the fingers. So it's a lot of messing around, but again, as I said, you've only got to get it right once. So I've just used the mask brush and I've just selected the whole hand with the knuckles, and again I've just inverted that for an unmask with a circle, and I'm just taking out where the knuckles are going to be, and then I'm just drawing this little pattern inside the hand. That small little vein you can see through the hole there is, again, it's the little details. Now I'm just going around each hole where the stitching would be, and that's just thickening up the edge of it. Again, doing a small edge for where the hand will go into the glove. Same on the fingers. Now it's the old mask and invert and inflate trick for the creases in the glove. And yeah, with not much effort, you've got a decent looking hand with a glove, nails and all. Again, I'm just gonna duplicate this hand, and I will mirror it to the other side just to make sure that it is exactly the same size hand. I can move fingers around and we can move the angle and stuff if we need to, but I just want to make sure that the size is the same. Now I'm just lining it up with the wrist, sort of happy with that, doing the old select brush and making a little bracelet. She's got two, so there's another one just above that one, so that's easily done. We're really starting to get there now with this model. It's just basically rinse and repeating the same techniques and same way of producing details as I've been doing throughout the model. So it's a lot of masking, a lot of inflate, and yeah, some array meshes, making the spikes. Again, I know ZBrush, you can do this much easier just by using poly loops and selecting a loop basically. So much easier, much faster, much more precise. I do get that, as I said earlier. But the more I use Nomad, honestly, the more I'm becoming just a bigger fan of it. Now it's time for some details for the belt. I've actually had to make the little flower, and now I'm just gonna place this where I want it, and then this is going to be used as an array, as a curve, and then again I've just lined it up around the belt, and now I've got to line up the tube with the actual belt itself, which takes a little bit of messing around, but once you're there, you're sort of there. Now remember guys, you only have to get it right once. So I'm just going around and I'm moving all these details around the belt, all the flowers, just make sure everything's lined up properly, and it's actually touching the belt. I knocked up a small skull for the belt buckle. And now I'm just creating some loops and the end of the belt basically. And again, it's just mask, invert, inflate. That's all I'm doing. It's really nothing very difficult about what I'm doing, really. If you break down your model in parts and do it a section at a time and just slowly work through the piece, you know. As I said, you don't have to rush. There's no time limit on this thing unless you're on a commission, but then you should have set the correct time for yourself. Now just made an alpha. This is a little flower thing that goes round the top of the jeans. I don't know if that's I think that's another belt inside the jeans, so yep. There's another, it looks like she's got two belts. There's one belt for the holster and one belt for the jeans. Now I'm just making the bullets for the side of the belt. Very simple, cylinder, sphere, join them together. Again, gizmo sculpting. There's no real artistry in what I'm doing at the minute. Select mask, invert, extract, and then we have the actual material that the bullet would be going into. So now just turn that into a curved array. Added more bullets, and it's very easily just adding it to the side of the belt. Now jumped onto the gun. I've got some references of the gun, so it's been really easy to just sort of copy it. Hard surface modeling in Nomad, honestly, it takes a little bit of a workaround, but you can get there with a lot of boolean, primitive shapes, trimming. You can sort of get there. I'm not sure what kind of gun this is. Let me know in the comments if anybody knows, or even if it's a real gun. So as I said, as you can see, I'm just using boolean, I'm using trim. I'm trying to keep everything sort of symmetrical and precise at the moment. I'm being very careful to not take things off the center line and mess up the symmetry. So I'm basically loading the gun up, and it's the front of the barrel would be the front. Now I'm just using the box, multiplied it, made an array with it, so I can make sure that every gap is equal. And then I've just used that as a boolean for the details at the front of the gun. Now I'm just whacking the sights on. Whacking the sights on? I'm just placing the sights on, messing around with the trigger a little bit. Trigger guard? Trigger guard, I think. So I'm getting pretty close now. Just messing around with the handle, making sure everything looks in proportion. Adding the final details. And just playing around with it basically, just so I'm happy with how it looks. I mean, the machine's not machined. And then the gun's not nothing too crazy. It's quite simple, so it's been very easy to make it. And yep, before long, I have a gun. Again, as I said, boolean. You've got to boolean. If you wanted to do hard surface, you definitely need boolean. Yeah, put the safety. I believe it's the safety catch. Again, I'm not sure. Maybe I have one little detail in the corner that I've sort of missed. I'm just adding this to now. Put the back sight on. And now the gun's pretty much done. I'm just going to position it in the hand, and then I know I can duplicate that and then mirror it to the other side. And that's the gun's pretty much done. Now I have to make some roses. Honestly, I'm just going to make one rose. I'm going to keep it quite loose, and I should be able to manipulate it enough times to produce some unique looking roses rather than all being exactly the same. So I've just used a sphere, I've flattened it out, and then I've started to use the move brush, and I'm just moving it around with the move and the drag brush to get these petals. Now I'm just keep duplicating them, and I'm turning them around uh, so they overlap the previous petals. And you can see here, rather than I don't want to keep duplicating too much. Every now and again, I want an original petal. So I will basically start from scratch with another sphere and then make another petal. Then I can copy that one and use that a couple of times, and so on and so on. Just gives a little bit more of a unique look to the petals, that's all. And you can see it's already starting to take shape now. Roses are pretty good flowers to draw, to design, to have. They don't have any really real set shape to them, apart from the center. The rest of it's you can pretty much do what you want with. I want to make sure I've got as much of this closed up as possible. I don't want to have big holes running through the model. So after a while I will voxel remesh this, and then it will get slightly smooth together, and that should be good to go. And you can see now I'm just putting the final sort of leaves on. They're getting bigger and bigger as they go to the outside. A little bit more volume on them as well. And that's sort of it really. I can mess around with each petal until I've all remeshed them together like that. And yeah, now I'm pretty happy with what I've got. So now I can start plonking the roses on the base. There are quite a few roses. I've had to bring down the voxel count quite a bit, because I don't want millions and millions of polygons just in the roses. They're going to be quite small, so I can lower the count quite a bit. Now I'm just onto the skull at the front. This base has got quite a lot of detail. The skull, the roses, the candles, the wood grain in the actual base itself. There's a lot going on there. I do like it. I really like it. I love the concept of the coffin. She's sort of walking out of the coffin, guns blazing. Yeah. I've joined the roses together and I will be printing them separately. Every piece on here is still would be left in its own layer until I'm happy to print. Then when I'm at the last stage, I will start meshing things together and exporting them ready for print. So you can see now I've just started to knock in some details on the skull. It's got a lot of details in this skull. But it's all easy stuff. Just crease brush. Just crease, reinforce it, crease, reinforce it. It's nothing too crazy. And again, as I keep saying, you just take your time. Okay, so now I've done the top, I'm onto the bottom jaw. Using a sphere, I'm just pulling the clay around. Really good practice if you're getting into nomad sculpting. Start to use your brushes. See what you can create using just a single brush. That way you will get used to making different shapes with said brush. So, for example, try to make a skull, but just use the move brush. You're not allowed to use crease brush, you're not allowed to use anything else, just the move brush. And you should be able to get pretty far, to the point where you should be quite surprised how far you've managed to get just with that one brush. And then move on to the next brush and see what you can do with that. And by the end, going through 10 brushes or so, you should know those brushes inside out, and the combination of those brushes should allow you to produce anything that you want, basically. I only use a few brushes. Through the whole video, you'll have probably seen 5 or 6 brushes being used. I use alpha stamps, alpha stitches, sort of the same thing. So I'll use alphas. I use the move and the drag brush. I also use the smooth brush, damn standard, crease, and inflate. Honestly, with those brushes, I can pretty much create anything that I want. So, yeah, good practice. Keep using your brushes. Now you can see I'm onto the candles already. Just cylinders, using the inflate and then crease brush. And I'm just getting the shapes of the drips and stuff. Not a lot of work needed. Very simple stuff. And I've just basically repeat that around every single candle. Again, I mean, honestly, the reference for the actual model was enough for most of this. This is just creating the drip. Again, it's just a sphere. Moved around, remesh, moved around some more, pulled, dragged down some drips using the drag tool, and then added some, use the inflate brush at the edge to give the volume of the drips. I've just duplicated that, brought it down with the gizmo, and then I'm just moving this around again just to give a different kind of drip. So I basically do that around everything and then go around, add some more resolution, and then just go in and start adding some different drips and again variation. I want as much variation as possible. I don't want things to look like I've just copied and pasted things. Now to the fun part. This does cut off a little bit into this, unfortunately. Again, goddamn ZBrush kept crashing on me. But anyway, this is sort of what I've done. I sort of started with a sphere and just squashed it inwards a little bit, and I've just sketched out the rough shape and proportions of her face. I'm not going to copy it exactly. I think that's pretty much all I use from the front. I'll probably use a side profile just to get the side profile down, and that's pretty much it really. I'm going now with a crease brush and I'm just marking out where everything needs to be. If you actually look at the clay, it looks really stupid, but it's just so I can get a rough idea of where things need to be. I mean, looking at the bottom lip now, it's completely way off. But again, like most things when sculpting, you have to trust the process. A lot of the times your model's going to look like utter garbage until you hit a certain point, or you tweak it a certain way, or you shrink something down, or you just move it. Sometimes it's like just that last little touch that, okay, now it looks like something I can use. So again, I'm just literally using crease, smooth, and the move brush, along with the inflate brush, and that's pretty much all I'm using up to now for this face, and that's all I do need. Obviously with some of those brushes inverted as well. Sorry guys, you can see there it's actually skipped quite a bit now through the face. It did crash quite a few times, so I just lost the footage. I've added a sphere for each eye, and then I duplicated the sphere, cut it in half, and then opened up the sphere for the top and the bottom eyelid. So you can see I'm just adding the key here as well. Didn't really need to show this, but it's just sort of how I do things. It's just a box. I'll trim off the edges, duplicate it, inflate it, and then I'll subtract that from the part that I'm trying to key into. At this point it's the torso, and then I'll use the inflated part and I'll attach that to the head that I'm using to insert it. So, and then I should have a decent fit. I am pretty much finished with the whole thing now. The face is good. The everything's sort of done. It's just the hair left to do now. There were some final tweaks that I had to do, and I definitely had to separate things and put keys in places for 3D printing. Everything that I do at the minute is just for 3D printing. So now I'm just finishing the fringe at the front. It's just tubes with a profile set to multiple surfaces, and I've just added a cylinder. I'm just going to move that around to form the bulk of the hair at the back. And once I got the shape, we'll be using a crease brush to put in some grooves, and then inverting the crease brush to give the peak some more volume. So I'll get the bulk of it done, and I'll turn off symmetry, so it's not exactly the same. Again, you can see here I've just put a lot of the creases already in now, and I'm just going back with the crease brush and refining the lines in the hair. Now symmetry is off, and I'm starting to move it around in different areas, in different directions. I'm just looking at the details, pulling the hair towards each other, the scalp, so it gives that parted sort of look. And then just going to finish off the fringe at the other side, again just using the tube brush, the same profile as before, and just posing each strand to where I want it. The hair's going to be done separately to the face, so it can be easier for painting and assembly. So again, I'm just using the drag brush to pull down the peaks, and now I'm really gonna start to go in and change the direction. And that's pretty much it now. I'm pretty much finished. There will be some final tweaks that I'll need to do for printing, but that's 99% of the work done. There's a little turntable of the final model. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you can take something away from this tutorial. I do have a lot more work coming up, a lot more tutorials coming, from short ones to long ones. So ciao for now. Thanks. Bye.
That's my place.